This is things you might have heard from the Conversation Project. I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and we like to think of ourselves as a tertiary source of news, but hopefully one of your first choices of pure conversation. And in the queue today, hopefully conversational stories, we think they are 8 news stories from the past day, vetted by you as conversational. They cover information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. We're talking the Iran escalation was sent Donald Trump home early from his trip to Canada. We're talking about the Reverend Jimmy Swaggart. Didn't think you had him in your bingo card for 2025. And TikTok. Oh, yeah, TikTok's going away in a few days. Did you forget about that? Apparently, we all did. We'll explain why those stories are there, the full vetting process, how we pick the stories that you helped us pick these headlines. But first, 3 things up front. Number one, our main source of everything is our home online. This is theconversationproject.com. Our email address for conversating with us back and forth is the conversation inbox at gmail.com. And today's sponsor, Spotlight, is On Ground News. Visit our website. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. That link there is an affiliate link that gives us a small commission for your joining in on the fun there, and you get 40% off their plans for ground news. That all being said, all done. Let's get into the headlines for today. As I said, 8 coming up for this Tuesday, the 17th of June, 2025. As I said, we have 8 stories, conversational based on what you said they were. We'll explain how they fit back and forth, but we'll give you the full explanation of how they got here after rapid headlines, but some sort of context back and forth. Of course, we start off with what is probably one of the most important things going on, taking up a lot of airspace right now, is Iran. Enough to have Donald Trump leave the G7 summit early with plenty of things planned for the next couple of days to do some deals that weren't quite done because Iran is getting pretty hot and heavy on this one. Iran is asking Trump to muzzle Israel as airstrikes escalate for a fourth day in the regional war. It may not be declared, but it's a war. They're firing things at each other. It's a big deal. So right now, Israel on a two-front war, 2 different groups. Not good for them, not good for us. 4 days into the escalation strikes, Israel has broadened its air campaign over Iran. Jets have targeted military sites, nuclear facilities, and state media in Tehran. You may have watched the video of a reporter on the air as her place was basically being bombed, and it was basically attacked directly. Strikes killed at least 224 Iranians, injured over 1,200. That's a lot of people in what's a small term. Israel is determined to keep Iran from gaining nuclear capabilities right now. Iran's officials, including the foreign minister spokesperson, are urging President Trump to muzzle Israel, their words specifically, presuming Washington to push Jerusalem and halting the offensive completely. They argue that U.S. intervention can stop the bombardment of civil infrastructure, such as TV stations and hospitals, because they're getting hurt, they're getting bombed in the process. Trump is urging everyone in Tehran to evacuate before it's too late, which may give you a bit of where he's going with this one, or may just show that he doesn't know exactly what's happening here. He emphasized that Iran must be denied nuclear weapons, the number one thing, but framing the call for both humanitarian warnings and strategic messages from both ends, how they're going to keep that weapon out of Iran's hands. Not quite there in plan, but pretty much that's what we're looking for. That's what the world's looking for. He left the G7 early to address the civil crisis. He actually, late in the evening, I guess, or by auto pen maybe, decided to sign the proclamation that the G7 came about with. The basics of this is a bad thing. Iran needs to stop. They should not have a nuclear weapon, but Israel should stop the bombardment. But Donald Trump went back to his world in D.C. so he could convene his own defense ministers and talk about what's going on directly in front, because I believe this is a sign that something's going to happen. Conflict prompted evacuation warnings with many in central Tehran. About 300,000 people told to flee key zones, not just by Trump, but by the Iranians. Similar alerts for Israel's population have as well. Many folks spending a lot more time in their bomb shelters than normal, and we'll see how well the Iron Dome in Israel and the defenses for Iran will hold up going forward. The risk of a wider regional war is growing, as this is a powder keg where, ironically, many other nations in the Middle East, many other pure Muslim nations as well, don't particularly care for either of these two. So if they could destroy themselves, that'd be great. The problem is the casualties of war will spill over to their nations as well. Now, let's go to story number 2, which is a continuation, number 1. Even though Donald Trump's been asked to muzzle his boy, have Netanyahu back off things, in an interview on ABC that's been 2 days old at this point, but still reverting to some issues that are causing some of the strife right now. Benjamin Netanyahu says he may target Iran's supreme leader despite Trump's call for restraint. This is not the muzzle call. This is Trump saying, he said, don't do this. He still might do this. Prime Minister of Israel has publicly said he might target Iran Supreme Leader anyway, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, anyway, claiming such a strike would end the conflict, not escalate. This is something he told ABC News in an interview a few days ago. Removing Iran's top leader is necessary to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions and long-standing aggression. Reports, former President Trump actually had a private discussion about the assassination of the plan before, as if it was before the strikes happened. He called it not a good idea, so it didn't happen. He says he called it off or had it called off. Netanyahu did not say this particularly, but he did say that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Netanyahu is going straight for the Hitler mark, the Ayatollah, and saying into the rule of the Ayatollah in Iran would end all the escalation period because there'd be no one to lead them on this path. No one has this sort of idea to do all the despicable things that they want to do. So get rid of the snake's head, the snake's body will go down. The reaction to heightened rhetoric, the U.S. has deployed additional military assets, tankers, ships, and missile defenses to the region to help the defense of Israel, not directly getting into the way of what's happening, not putting the muzzle on Israel at the moment, also not striking Iran directly to keep them out as well. Although, as we said in the past article, the past story, Donald Trump has been saying for his lifetime, Iran does not need a nuclear weapon. He broke up the nuclear deal that Obama gave them to let them enrich uranium for peaceful actions, which may or may not have been. And right now, trying to get back on track, Trump's been trying to work a new deal with Iran. And while that deal's been working, Israel started firing off missiles, making the deal kind of deal. Discussion is targeting Iran's top leader is deepening a reasonable risk, as I said already. Even though most of the countries and regions don't like either of these places, having them be this unstable is not good for anyone. So while you should think the Middle Eastern countries should come together to be nicer to both sides and pat them on the head and say, "Be nice, please watch this thing." We also see how things work out with Hamas in the Palestinian area and how that wasn't a pat them on the head and watch this thing. Iran, of course, a very big supporter of terrorists. Hamas, one of them, also part of the problem. We'll see how this one plays out, hopefully towards better on our ends, hopefully with a de-escalation to come extremely soon so we can worry about fixing other problems that need to be fixed. Our weekend was taken over by Vance Boelter and his shooting happening on Saturday morning. And so the good news is he's been captured. Bad news is we still don't know the reasons why, and hopefully we'll get some real reasons soon. Minnesota lawmakers shooting suspect Vance Miller was arrested by police after a 2-day search, the largest in his history, with many, many agencies involved. 57-year-old was arrested peacefully on June 15th near his home in Green Isle. He reportedly surrendered without incident after crawling towards law enforcement, who surrounded him in a hiding spot. He faces 2 counts of second-degree murder for killing former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, 2 counts of attempted murder for shooting State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Federal charges include stalking, use of a firearm in relation to stalking, and discharge of the firearm. Investigators disclosed that Boelter carried firearms, including an AK-47 and a handgun, while dressed as a police officer in uniform and using a vehicle with police lights. They also found extensive planning materials, a hit list of naming about 45 Democratic officials. They call it a hit list, and many folks have said it's not so much a hit list or a plan, just a list of notes with 45 names specifically for Democratic officials. Notes as well as forward text he sent to people, basically saying he was pretty motivated. He essentially told the folks he loved that he's going to war. He may be dead soon. Senator John Hoffman struck 9 times, survived undergoing surgery. So that's good. His wife also surviving as well. Governor Tim Walz described the killings as politically motivated and condemned them as a separate form of response to little difference. The case adds to the troubling pattern of attacks on public officials, whether they are elected officials, whether they are judges, whether they're just people who are just trying to do nice things. The arrest has triggered renewed debate over political animosity and security for elected officials. Federal prosecutors are reviving their potential enhancements to charges because you never know exactly what's going on. They may upgrade to first-degree murder for seeking death penalty on this case. Minnesota does not have a death penalty, so for state charges, that's not possible because the feds can do this. They may up this up just because they. This is a story that even ChatGPT, who's known for going crazy and lying and saying, "You might want to check these sources." But this is a story that we're not seeing anywhere, and so we're putting it out there because it did get your attention. You're interested in it, so we're going to put it out here. You can engage in it as you want to see if you can go deeper into the story. The headline for the story at number 4 reads, Saudi Arabia executes journalist after 7 years in prison. Saudi Arabia has essentially executed a journalist named Turki Al Jasir on June 14th. He spent 7 years in prison after being arrested in 2018. He was convicted on charges of terrorism and treason. The kingdom's official media confirmed the execution, stating his sentence was upheld by the highest court. Authorities said that Al Jazeera ran a social media account on X, formerly Twitter, used to accuse royals of corruption and post controversial commentary on militant groups. Right groups argued that charges were politically motivated and brought in secret without any transparency. Press freedom groups, including the Committee to Protect Journalism, CJ, and Reprieve, strongly condemned the execution. They warned that the lack of consequences for Jamal Khashoggi's killing in 2018 emboldened authorities to continue cracking down on journalists. If you don't remember that one, Jamal Khashoggi went to a embassy to renew some paperwork because he was a citizen living in the States, but still had citizenship in Saudi Arabia, had basically force and do some things for paperwork. He went in and never came out. And the Crown Prince was, of course, allegedly involved in that actual action. And because of that, more actions apparently went on by Saudi Arabia. Al Jazeera's execution follows a surge in capital sentences in Saudi Arabia. 330 people were executed in 2024 alone, including nonviolent and drug-related offenses. Rights experts say Kingdom is using harsh penalties to silence dissent. We know that Donald Trump went to Saudi Arabia and did a big deal with them and is doing what he can to be nice with them as they bring out literally had the kingdom come out for him to show him a great time out there. Although critics are very skeptical of how the kingdom works because of how the kingdom seems to work, we'll see what happens and whether more people will be facing these sort of engagements, let's say, in the future. We're asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the work we do for the Conversation Project and things you might have heard. Specifically, thank you for being a fan, following us. 4 stories down, 4 more to go, and we're going to give you those in a bit. But we need your help to grow our News Nerd Nation and get things going. Our growth is not keeping up the pace that we want to. So to get more people on YouTube specifically and other places because they work as well, we need you to like the work you're seeing. Like this video right here, right now, to show that I'm giving you good stories, stories that you may not get other places, stories that you get with detail that other places aren't giving you. And the commentary I'm giving you is fair, it's even, and even if you hate watching me, it's enough for you to keep on hate watching. Like it so I know I'm doing good, like it so the algorithms will believe that I'm doing good as well, and share it with more people as well. Know people who would like this stuff directly or hate it directly on hate watch it and keep going, share it with them directly. Hopefully they will like and share it and keep people growing. And we ask you to subscribe to the work having here because the numbers help. It helps everywhere we are. Stop by our website. This is the conversationproject.com and visit other places that may be more amenable to you if you're watching this here or those other places that will get to you. If you're not wanting to see the full detailed listing of stories, get the hot takes, get bits and pieces in TikTok and on YouTube Shorts that are put down every single day. Follow that, find our website, find those things. Find links to our audio podcast, or just look for things you might have heard or Conversation Project or your podcast. And we have an email newsletter that we put out right after we produce this. So it's produced, you get the pure links, the pure stories, pure words without my face and voice. If that's where you want it, or you want that as a supplement, that's there as well. We need you to like, share, and subscribe to grow what's going on. Help us grow a smarter, more curious community. Help us get more news nerds in the grouping, please. Jimmy Swaggart's in the news, not for doing anything else but basically surviving. But at this point, we know about a June 15th cardiac arrest. The 90-year-old televangelist Swaggart is now dealing with this arrest and has been around 8 in the morning, happening on the 15th. Emergency crews administered CPR overnight and rushed him to a hospital. He currently remains in intensive care. No updates as of yesterday or this morning. His son Donnie and his grandson Gabriel performed chest compressions until medics came in to restore his heartbeat. Donnie shared in the service that without a miracle, his time will be short, urging supporters to pray for divine intervention because the man is, of course, 90 years old at this point. Jimmy Swaggart's ministries had confirmed there's been no change in his condition, requesting his privacy so as he works to hopefully convalesce better. They provide updates on their Facebook page and in the media as will. Trust that God's will have its way. Swaggart is one of America's most recognized televangelists. His career spanned back to the 50s, including founding the Sun Life Broadcasting Network. Of course, big news in 1988, the sex scandal that led to his defrocking. Of course, his crying on TV. And of course, he bounced back to his ministry reaching millions because Christianity is about redemption and second and third and fourth chances, even for televangelists. Supporters and faith communities nationwide have responded with prayer chains and social media messages. Many emphasize his decades-long influence in gospel broadcasting and hope for miraculous recovery. Many do see him as a person who they'd like to see go away. Let's be honest with that. So we will see how this thing plays out. We'll keep this in the news. You guys are definitely interested in the comings of Jimmy Swaggart. As I said, not expected on your bingo card for 2025 to be in the news, but at 90 years old, it's a run maybe up for Mr. Swaggart. Here's an interesting story, and because we had the time off, unexpected in some cases, we did not get a chance to pull this one off earlier. But this is a story that prevailed long enough that is causing some ripples, and people are still talking about it. An unexpected choice by Nezza, a Colombian Dominican singer and social media personality, was going to perform the national anthem at Dodger Stadium on June 14th. Before she began, a staff member told her she needed to sing in English. Instead, she chose to sing El Pendon Estrelado, the Spanish version of the anthem. Nezza pointed out that the Spanish translation was officially commissioned in 1945 under President Roosevelt's good neighbor policy to strengthen his ties with Latin America, our ties with Latin America. She expressed surprise at being blocked, especially in Los Angeles, a city with a large community where the Spanish version is actually sung fairly often. Performance was tied to a broader protest against recent ICE raids in Los Angeles. You may have seen about those. Nezza said singing in Spanish was an act of solidarity, para mi caliente, an emotional stand inspired by her immigrant parents. The incident went viral, as you expect, with Nezza's TikTok clip getting millions of views. Dodgers players like Kaylee Hernandez and Becky G publicly supported her. Media reports confirmed that there were no sanctions. Nezza remains welcome at future games. The moment highlights a growing conversation about cultural representation and inclusion during national moments. Underscores how sports events can become stages for larger social political issues, especially in cities like with diverse communities. Dodgers' silence on immigration contrasts the strong symbol of statements made by Nezza. Whether they're going to speak out to the Dodgers, probably not. But with what's going on in Los Angeles, they kind of want a quiet stance where they can just play some baseball. They have some pretty good players that want to play baseball. They kind of want to back away and let that be the message they actually portray. We thought we were done with Taylor Swift and Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, but apparently we're not. I checked the date on the story. This is not an old story. This is not something that got slipped through the crap. This is back in the news. Blake Lively filing a motion in federal court asking Judge Lewis Lemon to issue a protective order wanting to block Justin Baldoni from accessing her private text messages and communications with Taylor Swift, arguing that they are irrelevant to claims. Thought we did this already. Well, the team alleged that Baldoni and his Wayfarer Studios orchestrated a plan to use Swift's name and her massive fan base as part of a public relations tactic. They are say that subpoenaing Swift's text and all the information there is a media play, not a legal necessity. And when we thought it was dropped first, the subpoena that Swift had earlier was basically withdrawn. But of course, he had a chance to reapply for most of it, and part of the most of it is the Swift stuff, the Swift thing, if you will. Lively now says Baldoni is pursuing her private communications despite dismissing the formal subpoena. This motion comes after judge dismissed the $400 million countersuit and in separate level action there. Of course, like I said, Baldoni has a few more days, I believe, to actually reapply those. We'll see what happens. Lively is being subpoenaed against Scooter Braun and Hybe, I guess, related to her own suit of alleged conduct. It's a lot of cases back and forth. Even some have been erased. Some continue to come back up. And these are people, even though this trial is not set for next year, and these people, minus Swift, seem to be not so great. It's something that I guess because this tea being spilled, we're keeping an eye on going forward too. You guys, every time we put a Baldoni Lively story there, it's a highly engaged, highly top rated story. which is why we keep talking about it. We were able to push it down this far, all the things that are like war going on, but the war between the Baldoni and the Lively continues in the courts as well. Oh, by the way, if you're seeing this clip on TikTok, you may not have much time to watch it on TikTok because TikTok is facing the nationwide blackout on June 19th. Yes, TikTok is still technically has to go away. It was supposed to go away on the 19th of January, the day before Donald Trump became the official president again. But Trump was like, we're going to hold off on that. And they held off on that. Then Trump gave another reprieve, another 4,500, a million days. And that happened. Well, that million, gajillion, thousand days is technically up. The nationwide blackout is now set for June 19th. Unless President Trump grants another reprieve or ByteDance finalizes a U.S. The best chance of a sale, probably not happening. A reprieve, most likely going to happen, even though Trump's sort of busy with war right now. Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Controlled Applications Act, which basically told TikTok to sell its operations or face a ban literally months ago, is still in effect, even though the pushback was a pushback from January 19th to April 5th to June 19th via the executive orders that have been passed. These delays provide time for a deal to form. Let me repeat that after my pause for my hydration break to make sure you understood what I said, because these executive orders, added delays, provide more time for a proper deal to form and a deal. ByteDance does not want to sell, and they are more than happy to go dark with what's going on. In fact, they put out a big campaign to sort of push creators to say, "Hey, you're going to lose this big thing if we don't figure out something and get something going forward." Not, "Hey, these guys looking for you guys to make a deal. Sell, please sell," because ByteDance doesn't want to. Now, why is this an issue? ByteDance is a Chinese or a controlled by a Chinese company. So if ByteDance is told by the Communist Party of China, "Hey, we need all your data so we can spy on all those Americans who use it for the watch dances and complain about Trump," ByteDance could say, "Okay," and give it up. Even though the data lives in Texas, lives in the States, and the company operates under all the rules that make it legal in America, being a foreign-owned company, a Chinese-owned company, and ones that we may or may not be happy with at the moment is an issue that's there. So a bipartisan deal between our folks in Congress said, "We want to get rid of this, sell or go away," because Trump was told that TikTok had won the election. Trump is pushing it, pushing this can back forward. Now, Oracle, Amazon, Walmart, many rich people have thrown their hats in the rings. I think Kevin O'Leary has as well, trying to buy this off of ByteDance, buy it off of China, if you will, and ByteDance and China are not. More than likely, there'll be another push, another extension. See what's going on. 170 million US users rely on TikTok, and rely on it means they use it for selling goods, promoting their items, and as a more mode of commerce. It's something there. We use TikTok to promote the Conversation Project, our news projects here, so we use it as well. The ban would block downloads and updates. Actually, would not get rid of our phone immediately, but it would keep new people from getting on there and getting updates and things onto it. That's essentially what would happen. It would take it off the app stores and keep it from automatically updating things. How will this work? I don't know. Donald Trump has to answer to Israelis for Gaza, Israelis for Iran, of course, the United States for all what's going on after the Kings. Excuse me, and to also all of us, US, for China and ByteDance for TikTok. Those are 8 stories that are in conversation by you guys out there. Thank you so much. You, in your quest to make this a actual dialogue, a back and forth, help us make the rundown for our recaps and everything we talk about here. We do drop in things here and there that's not important. We did do the story last night about Donald Trump leaving Canada early because he didn't know what was going to wake up to. We woke up to nothing so far. He's going to meet with his cabinet this morning and see what the next steps are. These are 3 stories right now that are in the queue for you to vote on, if you will. Visit at our conversational links, our feeds X, and your engagement tells us if they're worthy of talking about. Right now, to be honest, some of these stories have been pushed very, very far away, but oddly enough, not being spoken about much in the actual news of local cable, whatever, because war stuff. Doctors who supplied Matthew Perry with ketamine faces 40 years in prison. He has agreed to plead guilty to this one. His sentencing will come soon. The judge rules that some NIH grant cuts are illegal, saying that he's never seen such discrimination in 40 years. Check out that story because what RFK Jr. is doing for NIH, it's a lot of doing and a lot of undoing, not much being done. Again, a very odd story that had people head scratching their heads. I had to read it 3 times to kind of get over it, and still is there. But check it out. See the story they're going deep into on a larger scale for the show tomorrow. Man discovers that he had been married without his awareness, leading to arrest of his former girlfriend. By crook, not so much by hook. A man found out that paperwork was filed and he was legally married to a woman, which by all accounts, not a good thing. He's arrested, facing some charges. This is an interesting story, but if you deem it interesting, big enough to really talk about, we'll go deeper into it tomorrow. This is not one you'll probably see or look for on Ground News, but Ground News is there for you for all the other stories. In fact, the story about the journalist in Saudi Arabia that was executed, we checked Ground News, and it, for all practical purposes, was there. Like I said, our Chat GPT decided, you know what? Sometimes our sources are weird, and this is when you might want to check again. So we checked it again in Ground News. From what we can tell, all is there, including the responses from the um, journalistic groups who said this is a bad thing to do. Why is Ground News a good place for you to be? It lets you see the bigger picture of all news stories, whether they are local, national, or global stories. What you get is the ultimate aggregator. Now, I look at various aggregators, various sites, and things that kind of pull in news articles from various places. I'll give you a highlight of what's going on. It's some of the main websites and some things that you may not even visit anymore because you don't dare. The MSN coms and the Yahoo.coms, AOL.coms that have front-facing websites that pull in news for their news. Also, news sites such as ABC, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, straight to their websites to pull things all day long. But sometimes you get a news story because you receive it in a chat message from someone, your aggregator, and you're wondering, is this exactly the way it's going down? Do I really want to believe the source on this one? Ground News lets you check out that source and the other sources that are covering it. So you can see where that news is coming from and where it's literally coming from. If it's an OAN story, how they cover it, that may sound different from a story from the Miami Herald. You can see what the two articles are being covered on things going forward. They have local news stories, national and global, and the blind spot feature will show you stories at your particular silo. If you get news from Fox News or MSNBC, for example, and don't counter check the other ones very much, you'll see what the other ones are talking about that you might want to know about because your side wants to ignore it, if you will. Make your own opinion on the stories out there with easy read layouts and side by side comparison of what's going on. Cut through the noise, download the Ground News app on your phone. It's not going away, or log into it on the website and use our link for it. The affiliate. This is a conversationproject.com/slash ground news. This conversationprod.com/slash ground news, so you can get in on their Vantage plan for 40% off. We get a small commission back for you joining using that link. Conversation Project lives online at conversationproject.com, and this is where we have our home base for news that reflects what people care about. And we ask you what we care about. And it is about clicks. Well, the clicks help us know that these are stories you want to get into. We post news articles every 50 minutes on our feed. Facebook.com/slash this is conversation project, x.com/th underscore conversation. We also text some Blue Sky. Blue Sky is a little buggy. Go to the website, find the link to Blue Sky as well if you're following there. Once we get some better stats from Blue Sky, we'll be able to promote it a little bit better. Now, what this is all about is getting real results, real people on what the news should be about. So our website is where you can find more details about what we do and why we do it. And of course, emailing us to conversate back and forth on how to get better on stuff going on, or to complain about a story that we didn't cover or something we did that should have not gotten the run you think it should have. Also, the feeds are on this. well, check us out and make sure you get engaged with what we do every single day. This has been the Tuesday, June 17th edition of Things You Might Have Heard. I'm Jacob Payne. Thanks so much for being a part of the show with us. Thank you so much for joining us for the run we have here. And thank you for being a friend. Like what you see so get more people involved in the news, Nerd Nation. Comment if you need me to work on something, email me for something like that. And just be great, you guys. Be great people today. Love you. Mean it. We're out of here. Do this again for Wednesday edition tomorrow with stories from this Tuesday you deemed as highly conversational.